Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday night to you. It's Region Weather Meteorologist Matt Wintz. We have a lot to talk about this week. The last couple weeks, what we've been talking about has been this potential storm system, February 21st, 22nd, 23rd, sometime in that time frame. And now it's that week. I can't believe it already. But I'll tell you what, the models had such a good handle on some kind of big storm system developing during this time frame. And this was 2 weeks ago. And now we're seeing things come together. The model's agreeing that there's going to be a major winter storm this week, just not for us. We are going to be a part of it, but we're not going to see the big winter part. And wouldn't you know that, that's kind of the way the winter's gone so far, as our temperatures are just going to be a little bit too warm. But I'll let you know who's going to get crushed this week in terms of snowfall. We have some pretty active weather around here as well. We're going to have some wind with this system. As always, with any big storm system, you're going to have a lot of wind around. And then we have a really fine line in our temperatures where we either get some real decent ice or we get spring-like temperatures. So we'll talk about that all in this Sunday evening edition of Region Weather Live. Happy Sunday evening to you, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It's meteorologist Matt Wintz. We just got back, and I mean just rolled in hot from a weekend trip. We went to a cabin and did some hiking with the kids this weekend, about 3 hours away, and just rolled back in. So I was just getting a look at the models over the last 10 minutes after really unplugging this weekend. It was really nice to actually unplug from the weather a little bit. I took one day off. It was my first day off of the year so far. I'd like to save them. But anyway, it was great. And so we're rolling in hot here, and we're going to kind of look through and go through the models together here. I have a pretty good handle on it. I got a little forecast scribbled down with the stuff that you need to know, because obviously we don't like to waste your time here, okay? Mary's with us tonight. Hi, Mary. Russ says, let it all stay rain. Gail, good evening to you. Eric is saying I could go for one good snowstorm. I think we all could, just to kind of say, hey, winter's still around. Kimberly says, hi, Matt. Hi, Kim. Mark's with us. Sharon's with us as well. And Jeff's with us. So we can get started, all right? For sure. Okay, real quick, let's just thank our sponsors. Guys, these guys continue to supply, this show with everything we need to pay for subscriptions and everything that costs money with us, because there's a lot. The page just renewed as that's not cheap. But we're doing okay. And all these sponsors take care of me, so you don't have to worry about a thing. So please take care of them. Tiger Plumbing, Ewing Mechanical Services. They do everything HVAC related if you are unaware of them. Everyone knows Tiger Plumbing. Discovery Travel, that's our travel agency in Northwest Indiana. And guys, I'm telling you, it's time to get out of Dodge. All right. This time of year is when the South is warm and we're cold. Please use Discovery Travel Agency if you have. And if you're scared of travel agencies, don't be. They find you cheaper rates that basically pay for themselves, and they'll get you the best deals, get you an itinerary. If you're not a planner like me, it's great. Grigors Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and St. Jude House. That's our new organization we latched onto. We're just trying to create awareness around the wonderful things they're doing in Northwest Indiana. Domestic violence isn't something that's fun to talk about, but they provide a safe haven for folks that are victims of that. And what they're trying to do, just try to get the word out. Whether it be a coworker, whatever it happens to be, they have a new mobile advocacy program that they just launched in the month of February. It's huge for them, where they will come out, they'll meet whoever needs to meet in a coffee shop, a public place, whatever happens to be, and they'll take care of them, which is great. So just get the word out on that. St. Jude House here in Northwest Indiana. All right, let's jump into the models here. We got a lot going on. Again, this is a busy, busy weather week around here. And this time of year, I mentioned, things change, and you can feel it. We've got not only more daylight, the sun's getting brighter, sunsets are getting later, sunrise is getting earlier. We know all that's changing, but that also plays a very unique role on the weather, in that we start to warm the northern hemisphere a lot more efficiently, right? I mean, that's what spring is after all, once we get into spring. But the southern United States, they heat up a lot quicker this time of year. They've had a lot of days in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. All right, that warmth makes a huge difference versus in January, when the southern states, are in the 50s and 60s, okay? And the reason why is because that warmth feeds into these storm systems. So we can get much bigger storms in the month of February and March as we head into that than we can in January. And what I mean by bigger is via moisture. There's moisture, you have the severe weather component to these. You can also get much heavier snow. You can get much stronger areas of low pressure with that difference between the heat and the cold. And we're going to see that play out this week. And even going over the next 10 to 15 days, I'm going to show you that as well. There are several storms. None of them are weak. All of them are big old areas of low pressure that have impacts on wherever they go. Okay. So in the near term, this is what we're dealing with. Beautiful weekend. We were in the 40s Saturday, 50s today. We had the sunshine around, just gorgeous. The older I get, the cooler I like it. I mean, it was just perfect this weekend in the 50s. But you can see two things here on the satellite. You can see this big stream of water. This isn't always going over the United States. Sometimes it goes in the Gulf of Mexico. Sometimes it's not very strong and you don't notice it at all. What this subtropical jet does, it's always around, but it's not always feeding into the US. Again, it's feeding other places sometimes, like I mentioned, Gulf of Mexico, where it's broken up. This is a very steady diet of moisture coming into the US right now. Not all of it's raining itself out or snowing itself out, but it's supplying moisture, okay? That's key number one to getting strong storms to develop. The other thing you see here is everything in the west go from northwest to southeast rather than east to west, right? That tells you you've got some kind of digging trough in the western US. And whenever you have a digging trough in the western US, that almost always spins up some kind of storm system, and usually a bigger one if it's diving south like this. And that storm system usually spins up on the eastern side of the Rockies. And that's exactly what we're going to have this week. So I want to jump into it just to kind of show what we're talking about. I'll go kind of the regional view here. This is the Euro run from earlier. We're going to start the week quiet. Tomorrow, no problems. We are going to be a little bit cooler the next 2 days. There was a frontal boundary that passed by to our north. You barely noticed it. That's why we had some wind around today. But that's going to bring in cooler temperatures tomorrow. So still nice tomorrow. I think mid to upper 40s. It's going to feel nice because we're going to have some sun mixed with clouds. Not a bad Monday. Tuesday doesn't look bad either. We'll have sun mixed with some clouds. And temperatures on Tuesday, I think, will hold probably in the upper 30s as this cold air kind of settles in, okay? So 2 nice days out ahead of us. Wednesday's when it starts to go downhill, Tuesday night, Wednesday. So I mentioned all that energy is diving out west, and then we've got the subtropical jet all feeding together. Look at this. This is tomorrow afternoon. There's nothing. There's nothing going on. Weak system to the north here is going to slide by. That's why we'll have a couple clouds around. And then finally, all this system on Monday and the Tuesday hits that subtropical jet. Remember, it's southeast of us, and boom, look at the moisture kind of pop. We shouldn't have much in terms of impacts of that, but we do get cooler. So that's your Monday, Tuesday. As we get into Wednesday, that low pressure develops out towards our west. And you'll notice how this is kind of an elongated area of low pressure. So we're already under the influence of low pressure here, but it goes all the way back. The Rockies are going to be getting crushed with this system earlier on in the week. So the way we're going to develop, we're going to have a southeast wind on Wednesday. The moisture is going to pop over us, all right? As this low really gets going, everything's going to kind of develop over us. This isn't something that's really going to move in. So the Euro model is interesting. The Euro model has us right on this borderline. This is a warm front down here. You've got a strong low coming out of Kansas on Wednesday. The Euro has us all rain, no problem. It's going to be chilly in the morning, and then eventually we'll start to warm up. I have us at 39 degrees for a high Wednesday. So we're going to have a real raw cold rain as it looks right now develop during the day Wednesday, and it could be heavy at times. It's going to be kind of nasty. We're going to have kind of a gusty southeast wind feeding into this giant storm system, and it looks kind of nasty. Here's my concern. Let me show you the GFS real quick. We're staying on Wednesday for this, okay? The GFS during the same time frame has an ice storm, okay? It has our temperatures just a hair cooler, all right? It has us around 32, 33 degrees. And watch how this develops. Look at that ice. I mean, this is just constant freezing rain and sleet mixed in with some snow initially. But that's what the GFS American model is saying on Wednesday. It's got just an ice storm breaking out. I-80, forget about it, okay? That's why we need to keep an eye on this storm, because temperatures are going to matter. Whether it's, 32, 33 is a big difference from a 35, 36 cold rain, right? Ice versus cold rain. Hopefully we can keep it cold rain. Most of the ensembles that I looked at, which are all the different feeds that go into the model you're looking at, most of them have us just on the cusp of rain. And the way this winter's gone so far, these systems tend to just shift a little bit warmer than what the models are saying. So I'm hoping, and keep your fingers crossed that Wednesday is all rain, because if this GFS verifies, we're going to have a mess on our hands Wednesday with the storm system, okay? And then I want to show you the Canadian real quick, just to show you the third global model that we look at. And again, this is Wednesday, and you notice the Canadian has that warm front even further north, so we have no problems. We'd probably be about 41 degrees with rain here, okay? So the GFS is the only one hanging on to the ice. I want to go back to the Euro because, again, that's not only my favorite model, but it's the most accurate, I think, in predicting what's going on here. And that's the latest Euro run. Look how close that ice is to us. Wednesday is going to be a time to watch with this system, okay? If this, and just a couple things, if this low shifts a little bit further south, that would bring the ice in here, okay? So that's what we need to watch, is where does this low shift? All right, so here we go. We're now Wednesday. Hopefully we're all rain on Wednesday, and then we're going to start to warm up. Remember, we talked about this storm system. We've been talking about it for 2 weeks. Remember, and I don't always highlight a frame of time, but we said February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, there's going to be some kind of big storm system in the U.S. The models initially were showing snow on us, right? Well, they've shifted. There's two things that's changed in the models if you've been tracking along with me. The first is, over the course of the last 2 weeks, it showed one big old low pressure coming out with snow, ice, rain, and severe weather. What's happened in the modeling, and they're all agreeing to this, and I think what's going to end up happening is, instead of this low coming out together and really developing in the plain states and becoming that powerhouse storm system or that big winter storm, this is kind of an elongated low pressure where the first one comes out. The lows aren't together in this. They're not phasing together. So you get one low that comes out with, this rain and this ice, and then that kind of fades as a second low develops. So instead of having one big storm that's one big low pressure, you're kind of splitting the energy of it into two different low pressures. And so the difference in that is we don't get this big robust storm that brings in wind and warm and then cold on the backside. It's kind of a weird one. And so the areas that are going to get nailed with this are from Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, back towards the Dakotas. Get two waves, basically two storms that produce heavy snow, and they're going to get crushed. I mean, 2 to 3 feet of snow, widespread for them. This is a storm we've been eyeing for a couple weeks, and it's not going to disappoint. In terms of us, though, I think we can be thankful for this. This could be a huge mess on our hands, guys, and this is in the middle of the work week. I mean, if we fall into this ice storm that they're going to have on the northern side of that would be a mess. But I really think we're going to squeak out most of this with rain. And that's going to be a blessing. I know some of us want winter storms. This isn't really one we want to deal with. This isn't a one and done. This one's going to last for like 3 days up towards the north. So here we are now, Wednesday. This is Wednesday night. We're getting heavy rain. The ice isn't far off, says the Euro. And then as we go into Wednesday night and Thursday morning, notice what happens. This second low comes in right here. First low out, it took all that moisture with it. So now this is our main energy. And we get this little bump of warmth in here during the day Thursday. I'll use some profiles, but I think we get that little, like, because the flow took all the moisture that was in the Gulf of Mexico moisture to come back. So there's not much with it other than the heavy snow north. So as of right now, it looks like we squeak out a dry day on Thursday. We're still in the middle of the storm system, but we're going to have a dry day. It's kind of weird. It's very weird. And it's going to be warm too. We will have temperatures that start falling in the afternoon, evening, as it looks right now. See, that wind turns to northwest. This is Thursday afternoon. So we'll probably bump up into the 50s at some point. It'll be nice. And then that wind will start coming out of the northwest and temperature will start dropping. In terms of snowfall with this, still getting heavy snow out towards the north. For us, we might get some flurries around here Thursday night, Friday. I mean, it's this winter continues. What looks to be a 20 to 30 inch snow 2 weeks ago for us has shifted north. Once you guess it, the areas that have already gotten a lot of snow this winter, which is Minnesota, Wisconsin, back towards the Dakotas, they get more. So the rich get richer in terms of this. But the whole thing misses us. We get cold for Friday, and then it looks like a quick bounce back next weekend. All right? So that's what we're looking at in that. I do want to show you temperatures because this is pretty awesome what happens with temps this week. And I especially want to show you Wednesday. And then, we can go long term. I can show you all the storm systems. I don't see any one that sticks out like this one did 2 weeks ago. But it does look like there's several strong storm systems after that. And what I mean by strong are just big lows that just rock through. We get a big warm up, big cool down back behind it. So the up and down looks like it's going to continue to end February and start March. Temperatures, let's go through this real quick. Hopefully you can see those numbers there. The blues here, if you can't see them, the light blue is 30s, dark blue is 40s. Once you get into some of the yellow kind of grayish shade here, that's 50s, and then the 60s are the yellow colors. Okay, so here we go through time. Here's Tuesday. This is Tuesday afternoon. Mentioned it's going to be cooler as that front develops west or east of us, so we'll be in the 30s on Tuesday. Look at the warmth down towards the south. They're in the 80s in Texas. I mean, it's just incredible this time of year to look at a weather map. Here's where it gets interesting. Okay, Wednesday, look at this. These are your highs. Indianapolis, maybe in the 60s. Us, maybe ice, but it looks like rain right now. Southern lower Michigan, ice storm as it looks right now. Areas of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin could be an ice storm. Just look at the difference in temps. And we go from 80s down in the southeastern United States to below zero up in the Dakotas. I mean, there's going to be a 100-degree temperature swing from southeast to north to Midwest, upper Midwest. Unbelievable. You can't do that in the middle of January. So for us, again, we're flirting with some ice on Wednesday, but hopefully we can keep things warm enough by just a couple degrees. And then look at this little sliver that comes in here. Right there. This is Thursday midday, where we pop maybe in the up 60. The euro saying near 70 down towards Indy. I mean, widespread warmth here, but look at the difference. Couple miles, well, not a couple 100 miles north and west, and we've got below zero temperatures, a true Arctic polar air mass coming in. This is an amazing storm, and when you get temperature contrast from mid 70s to below zero air temperatures in a matter of a weather map, that's an amazing storm. So this is really going to be impressive. So we'll see that temp go down. It looks like Thursday afternoon. If this model shifts further north, we're going to have a very spring-like day on Thursday. If it shifts further south, we're starting to contend with ice. Okay, so this is really something we need to watch, because this is going to be a pretty big storm this week. And then as we go through time, there's your colder air. Yuck, Friday, 20s. I mean, this is polar air. It's going to be worse off towards the north. Quick recovery this weekend. Next Saturday looks to probably be in the 40s. I would guess 40s. And then a nice bounce back on probably still 40s again. But look at the cold air off towards the north. I mean, this one really lays it down. But that Wednesday, this right here on Wednesday is just amazing to me. Wednesday into Thursday, just that demarcation line between true spring and true winter right there. That's unbelievable. All right, so we'll leave it at that. If you have questions, go ahead and ask them. I'd be happy to answer those for you, and then we'll get you on your way here on this Sunday night. Hopefully you're prepared for your work week. In summary, quiet start to the week. Monday, Tuesday look good. Some clouds, some sun. A little bit cooler both days, especially Tuesday will be in the 30s. I think upper 40s tomorrow. Should be pretty nice. And then Wednesday's that day to watch. Boy, is it going to be an interesting storm system. The threat there right now is for some ice. I'm going to lean rain, and just by a couple degrees in the models. I tend to like that warmer solution. We've had that much of the winter. And then on the backside, Thursday's kind of a weird in-between day where we're warm and then we turn cold. And then Friday looks just colder as we go into next weekend. Okay. All right. So let's get to your questions here. Let me see what I have. Let's go back just a little bit here. Let's see. Izzy's hoping for some snow in New Jersey. Izzy, take a look at the long-term runs of the GFS and the Euro. I'm talking after this, so not next weekend, but beyond that. This brings a nice snow into the Northeast for the first time all winter. Vicki Ann, you're welcome. She says, thanks for keeping it real with us. For sure, Vicki Ann. We'll always keep it real. There's no need to hype weather. I think weather hypes itself, right? And this to me looks like it's a borderline storm, but I hope we're okay. Barbara, I don't see any. I know you're hoping for snow in Indy. I don't see a lot of snow in Indy. I really don't. There are a couple storms that the GFS is picking up on next week that would bring in a pretty good dose of snow somewhere in Illinois or Indiana. I'm not going to talk about them because the models, if they agree or they're kind of close, I like to talk about things. But if they're like this, and that's what they are, I certainly don't want to get into it. So Maxwell says, he always has great questions. What are your thoughts on the stratosphere warming event? Do you think we'll get below average? So what Maxwell's alluding to, so we don't just track temperatures here at the surface. We don't just track them up where the jet stream is. We track them all the way up to the stratosphere. And whenever the North Pole has a warming event where the stratosphere's temperatures warm, that sends the cold air that's typically there down, and it disrupts the polar vortex. So the polar vortex is always spinning around like this. And when it's disrupted, it can kind of bring those cold chunks south into areas of the northern hemisphere. Not always the United States. Sometimes it's China. Sometimes it's Europe. But Maxwell, to answer your question, Yeah, I mean, we're going to start to warm up. I've seen the event. I've seen the models that bring real decent warming in there next couple weeks. I I just don't know. I can't tell you honestly if we're going to get colder around here because the models have hinted at that, and then it's kind of changed. And you can get systems like this that barely miss us, where it's really cold just to our north, but we get mild temperatures, and it would change it. Again, I would lean towards a colder March. Again, long-term trends. If we go back and take analog years, of years that have had a mild February, have had a mild January to start, we tend to have some chilly Marches around here. But in terms of temperatures, I don't know what that means. Are we going to have a day in the teens and then it's 70 the next day, or is it going to be in the 30s and 40s all month? Way too early to tell that. Again, we'll focus on the next 10 to 15 days, but it's interesting to watch. I'm glad you brought that up. Jennifer says, thank you for the forecast. Our snow days, what did I do? I just took my face off. Oh, our snow day over the winter. Snow days are not over for the winter yet. Okay, do not sleep in this winter in terms of snow days. We can get a real good one that just no more school. Don't worry about that. Tom, that's a great question. Tom asking for any ice totals when ice storm hits. Let's look at that, Tom. I haven't looked at that. That's not something I usually look at until we're like a day out, just because they change. But this is great information to have. So this is your freezing rain totals. And again, yeah, they're going to get crushed. Anything over half an inch is a lot of ice, enough to bring down power lines. And again, this is a model. This will change, but the amounts are legit. And it's got almost 2 inches of ice, areas of Michigan. I mean, that would be a crippling ice storm. Let's take a look at the GFS, which is even a little icier, I think. That brings some ice on us. So there you go. Same kind of numbers, half an inch, over an inch of ice in spots. Again, this would be a real bad ice storm wherever that ice ends up going. But it's not guaranteed that it comes here yet. Mary, I'm glad you spent the weekend with your granddaughter. She turned 5 today. That's awesome. Yeah, I know you were tracking that birthday party on the 26th. We look okay right now. Caitlin says, can I put the soft top back on my Jeep yet? Or do we have another big snowstorm? But Caitlin, I don't see any big snowstorms coming. But man, we just can't rule out snows. I know it's some work to get that top on. My sister and brother-in-law have one. And, I don't see any big warm-ups either, though. So I'm not sure. I would say hold off on it for right now. But again, if it's not a lot of work, if it takes you 10 minutes or less, go ahead and do it, because I don't see any big snows in the near future. Yeah, Tim, great questions. So jet streams influence our weather. What influences the jet streams? That's a really good call. So Tim, the jet stream forms simply because the Earth heats unevenly. And that's because of the Coriolis effect. It's all related. It's crazy. Earth's rotating right. You get the wind that's blowing towards the south and towards the north. Along the equator, it's all equal. It's kind of going the opposite. But because the Earth heats differently, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example that I would teach to kids. So let's say I have, I don't know, let's say I have a hair dryer here, okay, and I'm blowing hot air on my desk, and then I have an ice cube over here, okay, and I'm blowing just plain fan air through the ice cube. Cold air is heavy and dense, so that ice cube air is going to sink, okay, it's heavier than warm air, so it would sink, and then you get the warm air that's heating up. When the cold air goes underneath it, the warm air rises and goes up over it. Just the simple fact that we have an area that's got cold air up towards the poles and warm air down towards the equator, you already have this going on where air is going and lifting up other air, all right? And then you add the Coriolis effect, the fact the Earth is spinning, and that moves all this, and that's what creates high and low pressures. And so all that to say, I'm geeking out, sorry. All that to say, the jet stream is caused by the unequal heating of the Earth, which creates temperature differences where you have warm and cold, and then it all mixes up with low pressures, and it's all driven by that temperature contrast. So that's why you see the jet stream kind of curving around. The jet stream is that dividing line between air masses, cold and warm, typically. So hope that helps. Sorry, I just lost 800 viewers. I love it. Justin's asking, what are the wind gusts with this storm? Good question, Justin. There is going to be some decent wind with this, and it's going to be very widespread. Let's look at the gusts. Locally, again, it's going to get windy around here. let's look. So here's Wednesday. Look at the field of wind with this system. I mean, this takes up the entire eastern half of the country. All right. And these are gusts to 40. You've got 50-mile-per-hour gusts kind of mixed in there. So our gustiest wind, it looks gusty Wednesday. Again, Wednesday is going to be a raw day regardless, as it looks right now. We're either going to have the ice storm, which I don't want to say anything about yet. The potential's there, but let's just say it's going to be a cold, raw rain, and we're going to have wind. It's just going to be not a nice day on Wednesday as the system really starts to develop. All this wind's going to be coming from the south here. This is a very warm wind. This is where your front is, where you see the lighter wind, and this is the southeast wind north of the front. It's going to be windy there, windy here, and it all kind of piles up right here. This is the other reason why we're going to have that big elongated area of rain and ice that develops, is because you have wind coming in from the south here that butts up against southeast wind, and it piles up. And when air piles up or wind piles up, it goes up. You get a lot of lift, and that's why we're going to have a big area of precip right here with lighter wind in it. But I think the gustiest time would probably be Thursday. Here you go. Yeah, there's Thursday's winds. The Euro as of right, oh no, that's GFS. GFS as of right now saying 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts on Thursday. Let's see what the Euro says. The Euro is going to go significantly lighter, I think. I'm going to go back to the 12Z so we can get that time frame. But yeah, there's your frontal boundary Thursday. Yeah, and there's your wind on Thursday. This is with that warmer air coming in, maybe gusts over 40 at times. So it is going to be a very windy, I think a windy Wednesday, but moreover, we would probably, if we got that warm up in here, there tends to be a lot of wind with that. So Thursday would be pretty windy too. All right. Let's see. Do you think, Izzy asked, do you think La Nina or El Nino overstated with how it affects the jet stream, and MJO and teleconnections have bigger? I do, Izzy. I think the teleconnections have a much bigger impact. Back in the 90s, I think we would look at La Nina and El Nino and we would say, all right, it's an El Nino winter. That means we're going to have blank. And we would say, hey, it didn't do that. Like, what's going on? It must not be a strong El Nino. And now that we can measure all that really accurately, it's not just El Nino and La Nina that are playing a role on the nation's weather, right? Or the global weather. There are a lot of other teleconnections played in. And there are so many of them, Izzy, that we can't just pin our hat on one. We can look at some of them, like the North Atlantic Oscillation. We can look at those and say, okay, well, that means this is coming, or whatever it happens to be. But we have yet to accurately forecast how exact winter is going to go across the entire North American continent, or let alone the United States, without being vague about it. So it's interesting. Weather is going to continue to change. What has improved in the weather, just so you know, is our 10 to 15 day forecasting. We saw this storm coming 2 weeks ago. All right, we knew there was going to be some kind of big storm in the eastern U.S., in the central U.S. as well. So that's what's improved, which I've noticed over my career, is that our 10-day forecasts are pretty darn accurate now. And we can go 3 or 4 days out. As long as there's not a big thing, we can nail temps, nail conditions. I mean, it really is amazing. I know, we get a lot of flack for, oh, you missed that storm, whatever it is. Things have come a long way. And yeah, we still do miss stuff. I think the trickiest part of forecasting is snowfall, the exact amount of snow that's going to fall, because it has to do with not just how many snowflakes fall in your location, but how the storm comes together, how dry air comes in, and that snowfall ratio, which is so tricky. So that's where we usually have misses on exact snowfall amounts. That's more than you asked for. Harry, thunderstorm chances they're in there. And again, this would be probably Wednesday. I know it's going to be in the 30s, maybe 40s. We could still have some thunder with that. This is going to be a pretty dynamic system coming in. Thursday, it doesn't look like there's a lot of moisture here. If this low stayed together and we got the 50s and 60s on Thursday, and the low is together, we'd likely have a line of severe storms that move through. But this low is branching off. There's one branch that comes out and brings us all that precip Wednesday. Then the second one comes in, is like, where's my moisture? You took it all first low. And so that's kind of how it's going to go here. All right. Francesca says, no more snow. No more snow. I know. I hear it. I hear both sides. I can't pick a side, but we'll see. All right. I think that's it, everybody. I appreciate you joining me here tonight to chat weather. Jeff asked a quick question. How much rain? Jeff, let me get your question for you here, buddy. The amounts are going to be probably over an inch, and this is going to be for Wednesday. Wednesday could have some heavier rain around. Let's go total here. But the problem is this is going to have some of that ice factored in as well. So we'll see. Yeah. So these amounts are over an inch. This is Wednesday into Thursday. I'll kind of show the timeline on it. So there's nothing by Wednesday morning, and then by Wednesday evening into Thursday, a nice strip with some rain in here. We'll pin down exact amounts, but there's going to be some heavy precip around here Wednesday. Let's hope that's not coming down in the form of ice. Okay. Russ, you're welcome. Jeff, you're welcome as well. Sarah's on team more snow. So there's that. Francesca says no ice, just snow. I know ice is not something fun to mess with for sure. All right, guys, we'll let you go. Happy President's Day tomorrow. I know a lot of you are off tomorrow. Some of you have to work. I get it. We'll be with you as always on the radio side of things in the morning. So join us there. If you don't hear us on the radio in the morning and you'd like to on your commute to work, it's X-Rocks 103.9, Indiana 105.5, and Z107.1. It's the Adams Radio Group. They're wonderful to work for. Love Stephen. We talk the more. We like to keep you company on your drive to work. So give them a list. All right, appreciate you joining us here tonight.